thorough consideration of this part of the question will be found the best introduction to the remainder.
Mill now considers what power, if any, government should exercise over freedom of thought and speech.
Let us suppose that the government is entirely at one with the people, and never thinks of exerting any power of coercion unless in agreement with what it conceives to be their voice. But I deny the right of the people to exercise such coercion, either by themselves or by their government. The power itself is illegitimate. The best government has no more title to it than the worst. It is as noxious, or more noxious, when exerted in accordance with public opinion than when in opposition to it.
Even in a democracy, Mill contends, where the vast majority of people support a belief, dissenters should be free to think and speak.
If all mankind minus one were of one opinion, and only one person were of the contrary opinion, mankind would be no more justified in silencing that one person than he, if he had the power, would be justified in silencing mankind.
How does Mill justify this assertion? Not, as we said, by appealing to natural rights, but by appealing to the good of mankind.
The peculiar evil of silencing the expression of opinion is that it is robbing the human race, posterity as well as the existing generation, those who dissent from the opinion, still more than those who hold it. If the opinion is right, they are deprived of the opportunity of exchanging error for truth. If wrong, they lose what is almost as great a benefit, the clearer perception and livelier impression of truth, produced by its collision with error.
Suppose we wish to suppress an unpopular opinion, an opinion we believe to be false. There are two possibilities to consider according to Mill. First, although we believe the opinion is false, it may turn out to be true. Or, second, the opinion may in fact be false. Mill believes suppression is wrong in either case. Freedom should prevail regardless of whether a belief is correct or incorrect. Again, suppose we suppress a viewpoint we believe is false. Mill considers the first possibility.
The opinion may possibly be true. Those who desire to suppress it, of course, deny its truth. But they are not infallible. They have no authority to decide the question for all mankind, and exclude every other person from the means of judging. To refuse a hearing to an opinion because they are sure that it is false is to assume that their certainty is the same thing as absolute certainty. All silencing of discussion is an assumption of infallibility.
There are many historical examples to illustrate Mill's argument. He mentions two of the most famous. The first is Socrates.
Mankind can hardly be too often reminded that there was once a man named Socrates, between whom and the legal authorities and public opinion of his time there took place a memorable collision. This acknowledged master of all the eminent thinkers who have since lived, whose fame, still growing after more than 2,000 years, all but outweighs the whole remainder of the names which make his native city illustrious, was put to death by his countrymen, after a judicial conviction, for impiety and immorality. Of these charges the tribunal, there is every ground for believing, honestly found him guilty, and condemned the man who probably of all then born had deserved best of mankind, to be put to death as a criminal.
The second victim of persecution was Jesus.
The man who left on the memory of those who witnessed his life and conversation such an impression of his moral grandeur that 18 subsequent centuries have done homage to him as the Almighty in person, was ignominiously put to death. As what? As a blasphemer. Men did not merely mistake their benefactor, they mistook him for the exact contrary of what he was, and treated him as that prodigy of impiety, which they themselves are now held to be for their treatment of him.
The persecutors of